What's up, guys? It's Coach Nate with Steel Strength Training, and today we're going to be talking about the Steel Nutrition Principles. All right, so those principles are: number one, eat mostly real food; number two, eat the right amount of food; number three, eat the right amount of protein; number four, don't eat foods that make you feel bad; and number five, enjoy how/what you eat. All right, so we're going to talk about each of these principles, but first, we're going to talk about the difference between principles and tactics. And if you read the blog or saw the video where I was talking about training principles, you heard me talk about this concept. So principles are like the broad principles, they're the rules that if you violate them, I can 99+% guarantee that you will never, ever reach your goals. All right, principles are like the highway. It's the way that the world works. It's the way that your body works. Like it's science, right? It's proven that like this is how you make results with training. This is how you get results with eating. And these are very broad. It's very broad because there are lots of different tactics you can use. Tactics are very specific. So like with training, you should do 3 sets versus 4 sets. You should rest 2 minutes versus 1.5 minutes, whatever. Those are, I'm not saying that's how you should train, but those statements are tactics. Most of the training and diet advice that you're seeing are tactics. Do keto, do carnivore, go vegan, become a vegetarian, don't eat this food, make sure to eat like double the amount of this food that you've been eating. Those are all tactics, all right? And most all tactics can work in the right context, but most all tactics don't work for everybody. Okay, so that's why I describe principles. It's like if you violate these, you're not going to get results. I can pretty much guarantee you. It's the highway, and you're driving a sports car, not an off-road vehicle. And if you get off the highway, you're just going to get stuck. Okay, and so we want to stay on the highway to get to our goals. But as long as you're staying on the highway itself, as long as you're staying on the highway, you're staying within the principles, very broad. You can choose whichever lane you want to be in. You can switch lanes. If you're really crazy, you can swerve back and forth between lanes. And the different lanes are different tactics. And different tactics might make different sense for you at different, times in your life. But all the tactics you use, if you want to be successful, will fall under this umbrella or within the highway of these principles. All right, so let's dive in. Number one, eat mostly real food. Look, it's wild to me that we have something called a food engineer, right? You got these people at these companies who are designing, these super processed foods. And look, I'm not just going to make a blanket statement and say you should never eat them. Would that be better for your health? Almost certainly. But I'm not going to say that. But what I will say is the vast majority of your food should be real food, single ingredient food that the good Lord himself made, right? When he made the world. You got animals, you got stuff you can pick up from the ground, trees. And look, I don't know much about farming or agriculture, but look, the perimeter of the grocery store, again, meat, fish, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, things like that, okay? Eat mostly real food. Real food is packed with good nutrition, vitamins, minerals. And look, yes, a lot of times they put those in processed foods, but they are not, I do not think that they work the same. I don't think they're as effective. And sure, perhaps if you're eating lots of junk food, which you shouldn't, if you're eating lots of junk food or processed foods, then maybe it's better that we have those vitamins and stuff, infused into that food for the people who are doing that. But you want great results, and so we're not going to do that. You're going to eat mostly real food, 80+% single ingredient food. Number two, eat the right amount of food. Calories in, calories out matters. I don't care what anybody says. And now here's the thing. Excuse me. You have people in two camps a lot of times. You have people on one end and they're like, calories in, calories out. It doesn't matter about like food quality, just like hit your macros. Well, there's a lot of truth to that, especially in terms of weight loss. You can eat absolute garbage And if your calories are where they need to be, you can lose weight. Same thing, you can eat super healthy, but if your calories are like too high, you can actually put on fat, all right? So some people are like, calories are all that matter. On the other end, some people in the healthy food camp are like, hey, you just gotta eat healthy. If you eat healthy, everything else is gonna fall into place. Calories don't matter. Calories in, calories out is not true. Well, like that's not true. Calories in, calories out is absolutely a fact. Calories are just a measure of energy, but food quality matters a lot. And in reality, you want both. So we want to eat mostly real food because it's going to make it easier to do the rest of these things. You want to eat mostly real food, gives you lots of good nutrition, it's good for your health. And then you want to make sure you're consuming the right amount of that healthy food so you can achieve your fitness, health, and physique goals. Now, that does not mean you have to track calories. It just means that you have to consume the right amount of calories. It's just like budgeting. You can keep an airtight budget where you know where every single penny is going. You could also maybe have a looser method and maybe it's a little more risky, but it takes less time. And it's like maybe you're managing your bank account, you're looking at what you spent every week, just kind of going back and looking and just kind of keeping tabs on everything, but you're not meticulously tracking each thing. And of course, then you could just free for all, like, whoa, whatever. That's probably not gonna put you in a good financial spot. It's probably not gonna put you in a good spot with your eating as well. But you don't have to track everything. But whether you're tracking or not, you do have to eat the right amount, all right? So, eat the right amount of protein, all right? Same thing, I'm not saying you have to track. Choosing to track or not is actually a tactic. But you do have to make sure you're getting the right amount of protein. Protein is so important for our health. It's so important for building and maintaining muscle mass, which is so important. Muscle is obviously very, very good for our health and looking super good. That's also really important. But you've got to make sure you're eating the right amount of protein. Number 4, don't eat foods that make you feel bad. So, a lot of times the foods that make us feel bad, and let me just say, what am I talking about? Foods that make us feel bad, foods that are gonna make you bloated, tired and lethargic, you just feel gross, maybe foggy, you might even feel anxious or depressed after eating some foods. That might sound crazy if you're not one who's really in tune with your body, but I would really encourage you to pay attention. Keep a food journal for a while. This is a tactic. Keep a food journal. You don't have to do it. But keep a food journal. It's a tactic that's helped many clients so that you can see, like, are there certain foods that are making me feel bad? Now, the vast majority of foods, if there are foods that make you feel bad, they're going to be like highly processed, lots of refined sugars, fake fats, things like that, okay? Like that, I say fake fats, but fats that are not maybe naturally occurring, just super processed foods, right? But I would also tell you, just because somebody touts like, oh, this is a superfood, you've got to eat it. Look, nothing is off the table, nothing. All right, I'm a huge lover of meat. I think meat is such a good health food. More on that in another video, but like meat, fish, if there are certain meats or fish that bother you, don't eat it. Vegetables are so good for you. We've been told that our whole life, but just because a vegetable is a superfood or whatever, if you're super bloated and after you eat that vegetable, skip it. There's like a bunch of other veggies that you can eat. So don't eat certain foods just because they're supposedly like, oh, this food is like so amazing for you. All right. There's no one food, maybe in some weird health situation, but this is not what we're talking about. If you're just an everyday person, you're generally healthy, but you're trying to improve your health, your fitness, those things, there's no like one food that you have to have in your diet to get to where you want to be. So like nothing is off the table. No fruit, no vegetable, meat, whatever, all the things. If something bothers you, don't eat it, find a replacement. It's the same thing with training. If an exercise bothers you, it may be a great exercise, but if it bothers you, don't do it. Find something else. It's not worth it. All right. And number 5, enjoy how/what you eat. Look, I totally think that food is fuel. All right. Food is fuel. And I was so obsessed with that mindset. I remember I was an idiot back then, but I was like 16. I just started training And I told one of my buddies, I was like, I would eat dog crap if it meant that I could get super jacked. And he's like, bro, me too. And I'm like, thinking back, I'm like, that's insane. But that's 16-year-old boys for you. But, and I meant it. I totally meant it. So like, here's the thing. God gave us food as fuel, but he did not just give us food as fuel. All right. He also gave us food for pleasure and enjoyment and for celebration and for connecting with other people, but he didn't just give it to us for that. So food is both for pleasure and enjoyment and sustenance. So I think we need to find that balance where like we're not like, oh, like God gave us this amazing food, and so like we're just gonna crush like 1,000 donuts every day because like food is good and like what a great gift. Food is a great gift. I would even argue that donuts are a great gift from him, but like it's got to be, there has to be a nice balance there. So if you're just like food is fuel and you're miserable, I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that is good for you in the long run. And if you're like, of course, just eating for pleasure or pleasure and convenience, which a lot of us have fallen into that, like that's not good for you either. And so we want to strike this balance and eat, yes, eat for fuel, eat for health, but also eat for enjoyment. So I would just encourage you, like within the rest of these other 4 principles, and when you're looking at your tactics and you're choosing which foods you're eating and how you're making your meals, like find ways to make them enjoyable. I think one of the biggest mistakes, biggest lies that people believe about eating healthy is they think, number one, it needs to be complex. Not true. We can talk more about this later. I think eating healthy is actually extremely simple. People make it way too complicated. Same thing with fitness. People make it way too complicated. The other thing, they think it's like nasty, right? They think it's like, it's gross. It's like, oh, it's just complicated and it's expensive and it's gross. So like, I'm gonna show you guys tactics to bust those myths, but you've got to enjoy. You've got to enjoy what you're eating, because if you're not enjoying it, unless you're like a robot, you're not going to stick with it. So guys, those are the Steel Nutrition Principles. If you follow these, I pretty much guarantee you 99+% confidence that you will reach your goals. All right. So eat mostly real food, eat the right amount of food, eat the right amount of protein, don't eat foods that make you feel bad, and enjoy how/what you eat.